Hi, I'm Don Texan, and I am having a wonderful Alberni Valley experience. Hi, welcome to another episode of The Wave, the wonderful Alberni Valley experience. I'm your host, Don Texan, with my beautiful co-host, Carol Ann, and we're coming to you from the unceded territories of the Taxal and Hupachesed peoples, where we live, love, and pray all day. With us today is a very special guest who I will be introducing in a few minutes. His name is, he's from the Port Alberni Community Action Team. He's the co-chair of the Port Alberni Community Action Team, and we're going to be talking about the work that they do and a very relevant and current issue about drug addiction and substance abuse. I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting discussion. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Ron Merk.
Thanks, Don.
Nice to have you. Thank you for coming to. So let's get right into it. Tell us a little bit about, so you're co-chair of Port Alberni Community Action Team. Who is chair?
We share. There's two co-chairs, no actual chair. We share co-chairs. Ellen Fruit.
Oh, okay.
We love Ellen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's how Sage comes into the picture.
That's right. Yeah.
I was about to ask you a while ago. Anyway, so tell me about Port Alberni Community Action Team. What is Port Alberni Community Action Team all about?
Yeah. So the government a couple of years ago, because of the horrible crisis we have going on with substance disorders in British Columbia, they decided that they would fund community action teams throughout the province. I believe there's around 28 of them now. We were one of the first six. The first six were chosen because of the problems in our particular communities. So at the time, we were one of the worst. So we were allocated.
What time was this? Before COVID?
Yes. So it would have been about 2 years prior to COVID.
Okay.
That the teams came into place. So the action teams were basically a group that of concerned citizens that bring to the table professionals, anybody that is concerned about the substance disorder crisis in the community, and peers with lived experience, people from the street. So we bring them all to the table at one time so we can talk and figure out the best solutions that we can go forward to hopefully make a difference in the overdose deaths that we're experiencing.
Okay. Now, earlier you mentioned that the Community Action Team operates in 4 pillars. Could you elaborate on the 4 pillars?
Correct. So those 4 pillars are trying to reduce stigma around concurrent disorders, mental health, and substance disorder.
So number 1 is stigma reduction.
Stigma reduction. Harm reduction. So anything to do with education and or equipment material and getting it out to the community. So that would be things like naloxone kits, safe needles, those kind of things. So anything to do with harm reduction and the education portion, because a lot of people ask, well, why do we have harm reduction? And so we answer those questions. And then the final 2 pillars are networking within the community. So networking is an actual pillar for us. So that means that we want to retain neutrality as much as possible at the table by bringing all these diverse groups together. So we want to interact with everybody on an equal footing and bring everybody's voice to the same table.
So when you say networking, I'm curious, does it involve just community service groups, or did it also involve like other groups in the community, like the Chamber of Commerce and the Uptown Society, the Uptown Group, or can that be included in your networking plan?
Absolutely. Any group that has a concern or is interested in trying to reduce or solve the overdose crisis is welcome at our table, basically. Most of the people that sit at the table, though, would be traditionally, like we have the health authority sitting at the table, people from the hospital.
You have Island Health involved, I suppose.
Absolutely. Island Health is involved.
Is the Community Action Team a funded thing, or is it volunteers?
Most of our people are volunteers, like I'm a volunteer. We have one paid coordinator that we pay from the small amount that we receive from the government yearly. Yeah, so everything else is basically volunteer.
So networking is the 3rd pillar, and the 4th pillar is?
Making social change.
Okay.
So social change is about So we're very concerned as an example because we know that one of the mitigating factors at the bottom of the whole mess is lack of housing for people that are marginalized. So you can't start a healing journey if you don't have a place to put your head every night that you feel safe. Okay. So if you happen to be a substance user, addicted, or have mental health issues, trying to provide you a solution while you're living on the street under a tent is not going to work.
So then my question to that, because to me it just seems backwards. So why would you, for example, like the tiny homes is just an example. So why would you provide something like that for somebody who doesn't know how to take care of himself and is an addict with mental disabilities? Why wouldn't you take them from the street to a treatment center to learn the right behaviors and how to take care of themselves before you give them something that they could just destroy? That might sound horrible, but I just don't know how that works.
Well, thanks for that question, Carol Ann. But I think the answer to that is that they don't just go into a mini house and that's the end of it. In behind all of that is a whole pile of services that are working with them on a continuous basis. And they could be providing life skill training. They could be providing access to health services. They could be providing access to the Save Injection site. They could be, providing a whole wealth of programs that is meant to take that person from where they are currently to a more stable and productive person in society. That's the intent.
I just don't know how somebody can change all those things when they're still in that situation.
Well, that's
you got to leave that situation to make those
Yeah,
changes.
but as far as I can understand, it's not instant coffee. So there are procedures. Or
It is too instant coffee. What do you think this is?
No, but in my mind, I would think that the program has like a procedure or a protocol or some kind of program that a person has to go through to end up with
Just
proper housing.
asking the tough questions because people want to know.
I don't think they start with housing. You start with...
No, I mentioned housing, but there's so many other aspects of the social problems that need to be solved in our province. Another one, as an example, would be we're working on getting more physicians that can prescribe opiate disorder therapy. So I don't know if you know this, but in this province, when you become a physician, you're allowed to prescribe any opiate or any drug basically that you want. However, once your patient becomes hooked on the opiate, you're not allowed to give them therapy to get them off the opiate unless you have a special license. So right now, think about that for a second.
Yeah.
So it's okay to prescribe opiates.
That's backwards.
But we do have a doctor here, though, that does that, right?
One.
Yes.
So how many doctors we have in?
No, I know. I'm just saying we
Yeah.
at least have one. Thank goodness.
Yeah. So a social.
Some places have none.
Well, a social issue that we're working on is right now in the province, we have 1,700 doctors that are certified to provide opiate treatment. Opiate therapy treatment. However,
So out of the 1,700, there's one here in Port Alberni.
right, because we've got more than 9,000 physicians in the province. What about the rest? So my question is, how come all of them aren't prescribing? Because if we had them all prescribing, we'd have way more access to therapy.
Don't they get paid for that anyway?
Of course.
Well,
Yeah. So, but we.
so but that's a choice for them.
Yeah. Oh, well, some doctors choose deliberately because they have preconceived misconceptions about substance disorders that come from their experiences in the past, right?
Yeah, but we can't say that they have what misconceived, like
I
everybody's.
can, you might not be
No, but
able to.
no, everybody's entitled to their
of
own
course.
belief.
True.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
true.
what you believe and might say is misguided, might not be misguided, but they might think you're.
No, it's still the choice. It's still the doctor's choice, right?
It's their choice.
Well, I look at it slightly different because when if I'm becoming a doctor, then one of the mandates when I become a doctor is to treat everybody for every health condition. And, I'm not sure it's okay for a doctor to pick and choose which health conditions he will or won't treat, or she won't treat. And our lead doctor in the province, Dr. Bonnie Henry, has said that substance disorder is a health disorder.
She also fired half of our medical staff and doctors, so
Well,
I don't necessarily.
but
There's
if
a lot of grain of salt, but I like her, but I'm just
Yeah.
saying, like we've lost a doctor in Port Alberni because of her choices.
but that's where the government. So the government made a choice in the pandemic and said, all doctors have to be vaccinated. So they were perfectly fine in saying, you have to get a vaccination if you want to practice. And so I asked myself the same question. So why can't they just mandate to doctors and say, you have to treat all people with substance disorders? But they're not.
It wasn't a
But I'm going to
majority issue, I guess.
Yeah, I'm going to say, honestly, frankly, the government is okay mandating one, but not with the other. And you got to ask yourself why.
Should be both or none.
Again, I agree with you totally.
So I guess that would be part of the action that
Yeah, so
community action is advocating for.
absolutely, so that's part of that social pillar I was talking about. Social actions, trying
Social
to
action,
move the social actions in the community towards a better and more enlightened view of what substance disorder and mental health is.
Yeah, I have to admit, I need some kind of enlightenment because up to this very moment, I'm honest, right? As far as I'm concerned, becoming a drug addict is a choice, not a health condition. So enlighten
The
me.
first time you take drugs, it's a choice.
Yeah,
Yes,
Right,
but I don't necessarily agree with that. Because the first time it's a choice, the second time is also a choice.
Well, no, you're addicted, and I get that. But for me, that whether it's a choice or not a choice doesn't seem to be the problem to me. The problem is that there's not the help. There's not.
Well, as Ron was explaining
we
a while
don't have
ago,
what we need. It's
there's
kind of a choice.
there's this program going on in Portugal that hopefully will come here, maybe.
Yeah.
But even in the process, you are giving them the choice. Are you ready to go into rehab? So it's still a choice.
Yeah, so the end result, the community, where we stand with the community action team, our standpoint is that we need to get to a system that treats substance disorder and mental health concurrent disorders all in a health
As a health
envelope.
condition.
Yeah, as a health condition. And part of that might be a safer drug supply that's accessible to people that are not quite ready to stop. And however, along that journey, there's almost in every case, as the journey gets longer and longer, people will finally go, I've had enough of this. I got to figure out how to stop this. And then that's when the Portugal model kicks in and it provides all of the backup stuff that that person needs to detox, get off drugs, and stay off drugs.
Can you tell our viewers exactly what the Portugal model is? I mean, we know now, but they don't know.
Yeah, okay. So the Portugal model, they made a choice, it's almost 2 decades ago now. And they basically said we're going to decriminalize possession of substances to a certain level. Okay? So it's not about the person who is bringing in hundreds of pounds of drugs in on a boat to the shore. That guy goes to jail in Portugal no matter what.
That's not an addict, that's a pusher.
Exactly. So we're not
And that is a choice.
Exactly. That's because they want to make money, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is about the person who is using substances and is addicted and can't get off of it. And then Portugal basically said, we will decriminalize this up to this level. But however, should we find you using drugs on the street, there is a process where the police refer them to the health authority, and it's mandatory. So you can't not go once the police have apprehended, you have to go. And if you don't go, they come and find you and take you.
Okay.
And once you're at the health authority basically works with you, sits down, and they have those discussions about, can we give you counseling? Like, why is it that you think you got started? Is it because of childhood trauma? Do you have a mental health issue that needs to be treated? And all those things are dealt up for the person. And when the person has basically 2 choices. I want to stop using drugs, in which case they will help them to detox and get off the drugs. But they may not be ready. And that's okay too. So what Portugal does is, if you say, Don, if you said, I can't do this yet, so I just can't stop, then we write you out a prescription and give it to you so that you have access to safer drugs that won't kill you because there's a bunch of poison in it.
Okay, so I have access. Where do I get it? I'm not getting it from a pharmacy, or am I?
They have pharmacies there, and you can access those pharmacies and get your drugs when you need them. So
So the pharmacies had that supply?
yeah.
Here in British Columbia?
In
No,
British
Portugal.
Columbia, in Portugal.
Okay.
But we also we're starting on that road in British Columbia, so we do have pharmacies that are providing some safe drug supplies. For instance, there's a project running in Victoria right now. But it only serves a very small group of people.
Okay, so that's in Portugal. They seem to have something good
Yeah.
going there. What do we have here in British Columbia?
Well, we don't have a lot yet, but hopefully we're going to move towards that. So the provincial government has made a deal with the federal government, and we're going to decriminalize. I think it's up to 4.5 grams. I think, don't quote me on that, as of the beginning of the new year. So that's a
4.5
step
grams of what?
of whatever drug.
Opiate or whatever?
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
And it will be available in...
no, safer supply is a different issue. So the first step is the provinces have decided to just decriminalize.
So that's in a way related to stigma and harm reduction?
Yeah, of course. So, I'm just going to go back a bit, just a tiny bit into history, because in the 1970s, we ended up with Mr. Richard Nixon as the President of the United States, who decided that he would have a war on drugs. And the war on drugs basically, the thought at that time, because we didn't have the science to back it up, was that it was a choice. And that these people were making all these harmful choices to society, and consequently, they should pay a price. We should grab them, penalize them, throw them into prison, and give them a record that stayed with them for the rest of their life and made their life a living hell because they couldn't get a decent job after that. And even if you only had a tiny bit of marijuana. That was the war on drugs in the United States, right? And today it still is happening in the United States. And we, Canada, we kind of mirror everything the Americans do. So we had our own war on drugs here in Canada, and we criminalized the whole thing here as well.
Yeah, but now it's different.
Well, now we're trying to back up from it because we have science over the last 20 years, 25 years, where the scientific evidence is starting to tell us that this is a health issue, not a choice. And so you guys talked about choice in the beginning. And yeah, I agree. Our biggest problem now is drugs are usually introduced at the youth level in our society. If you go to the high school here, as early as grade probably 5, you can find drugs in the schools. And kids are, they're subjected to it being there. And it's very hard. We know what peer pressure is when we grew up. They have the same, if not more, peer pressure today. And you get pushed to try it once. You get pushed to do it twice. You get pushed to, there's a party on Saturday and don't be a deadbeat. Have some of this. It'll be fun. And the next thing we know, 4 or 5 times in, you can't.
Okay, now this thought just occurred to me now is you decriminalize drugs. So does that open the door to the drug dealers then?
No, actually, I think what will happen is, and Portugal experienced this, other venues in the world have experienced the same thing. Because as soon as you start to offer safe drug supply, just like marijuana in Canada today, the thing that happens is you dry up the black market at the back end. And you get rid of all the criminal activities associated because people can get it now, and it's controlled by the government. Now, I will say...
But the black market
I
is
don't know.
still...
Anybody that I know that smokes pot ain't buying it at the stores.
Well...
No, I buy my edibles
I
from
don't
a
touch
shop.
the stuff. Let's just clarify that. I do not smoke pot or eat edibles. But people that I know that do,
Yeah,
do
it's
not
not
go
harmful.
to the store and buy.
But it's a choice. I only do it on the weekends. Anyway. But it's legal. It's edible. You can buy it in the store and pay for it. I'd even get a receipt and everything. Anyway, but my question is, the black market will not necessarily dry up. All they have to do is drop their prices. Isn't it?
Well,
Well, not if they're giving it away for free.
Yeah, well,
No, I don't think they'll
you know,
give it away
our
for
health
free.
system, doesn't work that way. Our health system is predicated on whether you can afford a drug or not. That's what pharmacare is about. So, you know, a safer drug supply would fall under the pharmacare system. And so there are some people that are on social services and have very little money. And there's some people that really, frankly, don't have any money. I don't know how they live because they haven't figured out how to get through the system door to get social service. So for those people, yeah, drugs might be given to them. However, as your income level climbs, you're going to be expected to supplement your portion of whatever substance you require, just like any other prescription you do.
Well, just like anything when you're talking stigma. Okay, I'm sorry, but like I look at somebody who's a drug addict who's stealing from me and not getting punished, and they've not just stolen from me, but they've stolen from, say, 4 other businesses in town, and they just get let go. But if I did something wrong, let me tell you, I'm going to hear about it. I'm going to be charged with
It'll
this,
be all
this,
over
this, and I'm
Facebook
going
and
to
AV chatter.
but it doesn't make sense.
Hello, my good friends, colleagues, and neighbors. My name is Joshua Dalling, and I'm running for council in the city of Port Alberni. As many of you are aware, our healthcare system is collapsing, and if we don't act fast, we will lose access to our hospital and other forms of healthcare in our community. Visit my website to learn more about my plans to establish a primary care center to keep our hospital open and to attract more doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals to Port Alberni. On October 15th, make a difference and vote for Dalling.
About it. I'm going to be charged with
It'll be
this,
all
this,
over
this, and I'm
Facebook and
gonna
AV
fines
chatter.
but it doesn't make sense.
Well,
just-
let's talk about that, because that's part of the reason for decriminalizing. It's also part of the reason for safer supply. Because those people basically, if you really dig down into how they're living their lives, they go for a short few days when they have money, then they have no money, but they still have their drug addiction. And so if you're addicted,
Oh, you've got to still
You-
get your drugs. But
that's
then
right.
why aren't they being charged and having mandatory treatment?
well, that's
They
because
can
our
charge with
system,
theft.
because our,
That's about
you
it.
can,
Because our Crown doesn't take the cases.
well, there's still cases that are going through the system, but they're penalized for their drug use. They're not, we don't reorient them into the healthcare system. It's all strictly the criminalization process. So all you're doing is heaping on more stigma onto them. You're worsening their situation, and when they come out of that criminalized network,
Sorry, we're worsening their situation because they stole from us.
no, because you're
No,
putting them
because
through
it's
the
criminalized.
criminalization system.
But they're worsening our situation.
Yeah, but you
and
said
we're
it-
working 7 days a
But
week.
you said it yourself. What you want them to be is oriented into the healthcare system.
Yeah.
But we don't have that system in place
Oh,
today.
not yet.
And
We need to
that,
get it in place.
and that's what the community action team is working on.
Okay,
That's what
there
we
we go.
want.
Okay, we
Okay,
want
let's
that.
talk about that. So what is Community Action Team doing as of now to get to that point?
Well, we've got our fingers in so many pies. So we meet monthly on a regular basis, and at those meetings we have the health authority there, doctors there. We have people like Safe Haven, the PASS, our Port Alberni Shelter Society, and a whole pile of other organizations. We have First Nations people there, because First Nations people are significantly impacted by this at a much higher level than other people.
I
Okay.
see.
And there's lots of reasons for that, which I'm sure we can talk about if you want, but I think you know.
Yes.
So we have all those people there, and we are working every time we have our meetings, we're working on a whole list of solutions that we're hoping will make a difference.
Okay.
So I'll give you some examples. So last year we implemented with the Friendship Center an ID clinic, because one of the biggest significant barriers for people that are marginalized on the street is they lose their ID and they can't replace it. So we figured out a methodology, figured out how to fund it, and we asked the Friendship Center if they would step up to actually administering the process. So people now if they lose their ID and you're on the street, marginalized, you can go down to the Friendship Center, and they'll sit down with you and they'll figure out how to get you a replacement ID. And that ID is your first ticket into all the access for health and all the other services that people need.
Which includes, I suppose, counseling and access
Yeah,
to
of course.
services and all that stuff.
Yeah, first thing they ask for when you walk into the hospital, could I have your MSP card, your medical card?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have an ID? Like if you don't have an ID,
Okay.
You
now,
can't get a
just
bank
shifting
account?
a little bit towards another, related to the topic, but more or less related to community action team. We're talking about the drug addiction and the stigma reduction, the harm reduction. Is drug addiction the only issue that's being addressed by the community action team, or there's other issues? Because there are other issues in the community, like there's homelessness,
Yeah.
there's crime. I mean, it's not necessarily related to drug addiction, but is drug addiction sort of like the main focus of the community action team?
well, we concentrate on two disorders, basically mental health, because we know mental health is a major contributor to substance disorder.
Okay.
And the other major one is substance disorder. However, the ones that fall out underneath that are all social issues. So we're interested in housing because we know that housing is a basic building block for people to have in order to be successful if they want to go down the healing journey.
I see.
Access to services is also, that's why I mentioned the ID clinic, because if you don't have an ID, your access to services is,
Okay, let's hypothetically create a situation. I realize I'm an addict, I need help. What happens if I turn myself in, kind of? Because it's not yet decriminalized, so I'm a criminal with substance abuse
They're not going to
issues.
charge you with nothing, so you can get help.
No, I'm asking. So let's, for example, I'm not asking to charge me. I'm turning myself in.
Yeah.
Where do I go?
So, most people you would either go to your family doctor, you would go to the ER, or you would go to the mental health clinic on Rogers Street.
Okay,
Well,
so
there's
there
no
are
family doctors.
Yeah. So,
and
but-
mental health can't help you, so
Yeah.
that's where you go.
Yeah, so that's why I mentioned the ER. So when you go to the ER, you're going to see a doctor, and if you actually say the words and say, "I'm done with this. I need a referral so that I can get off drugs," he will write you a referral that will get you in to see the appropriate people in the mental health clinic.
Yeah.
What
But
kind
you
of
know where
doctor?
I have an issue with that is, so just from not my personal experience, I'm not a drug addict, but from people I know, when you want help and you decide you want help, a referral's fine, but if you don't get immediate help, the next day you've changed your mind and you're back into
I know.
it.
So, Carol Ann, I can't agree with you more. What you have just done is you've nailed one of the most important things that the Community Action Team has been working on this last year and a half. So we recognize right up front, because we got direct communication from the peers that sit at our table that are on the street. They said, I go to the hospital, I ask for a referral. They give me the referral slip and it's dated for 2.5, 3 weeks in the future.
Yeah.
And frankly, they're going to be dope sick in the next 2 hours. So unless you can get access fairly instantly, that person is going to go right back to their street dealer. Because frankly, the street dealer will deliver the drugs to you. You just have to make a phone call and he'll bring them up to the front door of the ER and give them to you as you leave the building. So that's...
And he only takes cash.
And he only takes cash. However, that's what we're fighting. So we have a system in place that does a referral that takes 3 weeks versus a drug dealer that's happy to stop by in the next 10 minutes. It's hard to fight that if you don't have the right system in place, and we don't have it yet. But we're working.
So in a sense, we shouldn't be waging war against the drugs. We should be waging war against the drug dealers.
I don't
think we're there yet.
well,
But isn't that what we're supposed to do?
yeah.
But that will just cut off the supply.
Well, the thing is, so let's talk about the drugs for a minute, because,
Okay.
there was a time when maybe you could have cut the supply off because the supply was coming from places like Afghanistan or China or, the poppy factory.
China, really?
The family,
People are making it here.
the poppy factories of the world, right?
Okay.
There's no such thing as pure heroin anymore on the street. It's all basically 99% fentanyl. Fentanyl gets made in a garage in the back of somebody's house right here in River City. It's being made all across our country, as is crack, as is meth. And so the idea that you're going to shut it off by closing the borders or, looking for dealers that are shipping stuff in is long gone. That's not doable anymore. Yeah. However, I agree with you. So when we find people that have set up a meth lab and they've got like 10,000 pills in the back of their garage, that person needs to be taken into account. Yeah, because they're not doing us a favor in society. Now, the poor schmuck that is taking the drug, that's a different story.
But we must know, well, I mean, we don't, but like our police force and stuff, they must know who these guys are.
I am sure they have an idea.
Oh, I know they know. So why is nothing being done?
Well, you'd have to ask, I can't answer that question. You'd have to ask them that. I've asked that question myself a few times, and I don't really have a ready answer for you there.
Well, I'll go back to the networking then. Is the RCMP somehow
Yes, they
involved
are.
in the table?
Yeah, they sit at our table.
And
as do the fire,
government?
as do the fire department and the paramedics. So we have all the
What about City Hall?
And City Hall has a representative sitting at our table as well.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that's why the community action team can be such
A vital part
of the community because we have all the players sitting at the table. And, my job as co-chair is to keep...
Or maybe more people should get involved, like people from the business side, because the business people are very affected by this.
Yeah, I agree. I've had sort of talks with some of the business people, and I understand the frustration. But, when you get down to the brass tacks, it's because we're not addressing the social issues that drive it. Just telling people to move on is not helping them, so the kind of standard methodology we use in today's world is like, I don't want you standing on the front of my business, go away, and that works for the short term for that one individual today. However, there's another 300 of them wandering the streets in our city today, and until we resolve where those 300 people are going to put their head every night, we're not fixing the problem by just telling people to move on.
So I'll go back to the 4 pillars again. So it's stigma reduction, harm reduction, networking, and community action,
and social action.
Social action.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's what brings me here, because that's the reason I asked if we could do this program today, because one of the things that really bothered me last month was the results we got for our region here, Alberni Claycott.
Okay.
And the numbers that came out in January to April of this year, we lost 11 people to overdose deaths here. That is the highest number since we started collecting the data in 2016.
Highest number in Port Alberni on the record, or in whole Canada or
not
British Columbia?
In Port Alberni. It's also put us as the 5th worst
drug-infested community?
Well, they measure, so there's all these stats that you find in the BC Coroner's website. But one stat that's really super important is the rate of deaths per 100,000 people in a community. And January to April of this year, we were the 5th worst in the province.
Is it, can you tell when, I don't know drug terminology, but when there's like a bad batch?
Yes.
Because today, when we came back into town, 3 places had someone on the ground with an ambulance.
Yes.
And it looked like that.
And just today.
Just today. Hi, my name's Carol Ann Zanetti, and I'm running for City Council. I'm coming to you from the unceded territories of the Taoiseach and Hoopachesit peoples. I'm here at Steampunk Cafe, which I own and operate and have for the last 2 years. I also am a board member of the Chamber of Commerce and have been for the last 5 years, where I've been fortunate to learn a lot about businesses in the Alberni Valley.
I've owned and operated businesses here in Port Alberni for the last 14 years as well. I'm an active member in the Uptown Merchant Society, where we've brought you some great things such as the Uptown Market and Uptown Block Parties. I'm an active member at my church as well, and I am raising a family here in Port Alberni. I've raised my grown children, and now we're raising 2 more, and we also have grandchildren growing up in the Alberni Valley, so I know what I'd like to see for families, that's for sure. In the next few weeks, we're going to be featuring more videos on my pages, sharing with you the reasons why I'm so passionate about running for City Council in Port Alberni, all of the issues that I would like to see us tackle. On October 15th, let's make a difference. Vote for Carol Ann Zanetti.
Places had someone on the ground with an ambulance, and it looked like that.
And just
3 of them.
today.
Just today.
So Carol Ann, the answer to your question is yes. And so we get, Island Health sends out announcements when we believe that the supply has become more toxic than it normally is. And then we broadcast those through our social media channel and get them out to all of the organizations in the city as soon as we can. So, and they're posted in places like the safe injection site, so that the people who use drugs, they go in there and they see it, and the staff says, you should be aware, maybe you should get your drugs tested this week because it's worse than it usually is.
Well, and I think too, I guess it is good to have a place to sleep, because I have noticed that since the warming center let people stay in there over the winter, we haven't seen what we used to see. So I used to get to work in the morning, and I usually start about 4:35 in the morning, and out my back door almost daily I was picking up blankets and pillows from people sleeping back there. And I've not once since then. And I think that will only improve as they add more beds in there and get it sorted out. But
at least they have a chance to sleep it off.
yeah, well, they're in there, they're not coming and going, so I'm not seeing the problems uptown that we used to at all.
I would ask you to think about this. So if we could resolve the entire homeless problem in Port Alberni, and we knew that they were all sheltered every night, how do you think our city would be looking now?
Well, I'm all for like, I wrote a letter in support of the warming center having the cots in there. I think it's a great thing. I don't for 1 minute think, I know some businesses did say it was a bad thing, but like, I'm looking at the people who did. You have one business who complained, but I mean, you have to be completely honest. That's probably the business that makes the most money off of the homeless people cashing their welfare checks and collecting a percentage every time. Like, I don't know what you're complaining about. Right. It's actually a good thing. That's just me. But
so
if that's on the air, that person can come directly to me and complain, because it's not the way.
So let's look, like I mentioned, 11 people, and as I said, that was horrifying to us, because that's the worst number we've had since 2016.
Making us fifth.
Yeah, making us the 5th worst.
Just curious, who was number 1?
Yeah, 5th worst in the province.
Who was number 1? You can't say, or you can you say?
No, actually I can. I just, I got to drag it out of my memory. However, and this is the interesting part, so 2 of the ones that were above us are very small regions, and they have very small numbers. So if we actually took them out and excluded them because the ratios are a little skewed because of numbers, it would have made us the 3rd worst.
So 11 people died, and that is a staggering statistic. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, Don, I guess the most important part is what can we do? And what can people do that are using substances, what they can do? Well, we know about the harm reduction, we know about the safe injection site. You know, those things they've been working for a while. So they obviously didn't mitigate the fact that 11 people died. Okay? We still experience those 11 deaths in our community. However, what we found...
3 more.
We don't know.
Yeah,
Just
well, I haven't seen the stat. I agree with you, Don. I'm aware of at least 2 more since then, but they're not on the official stats yet. But they will be probably in the next week.
Yes.
Okay. So we looked at what happened to those 11 people, how they died, who they were, and et cetera, you know. And what we discovered that 80% of them were men.
Okay.
So right off the bat, if you're a male and you're using substances you're probably likely to die more than you are if you're a female. So, and that's particularly because men tend to see themselves as invincible, and they don't think it'll ever happen to them.
Or isn't that also due to the fact that there are more male drug addicts than female drug addicts?
Yeah, I wouldn't say that, because, you know, if you take a walk down East Hastings as an example, females are pretty well represented there as well as males are. But, you know,
Well, let's get back to the more important. What can we do?
yeah, so the other things that we found out, so 80% are men, 20% are women. The other thing is, the majority of those people died alone. So that's a single key right there. So the message we need to get out to the community is, if you are going to use the substance, whatever you do, don't use alone. Okay? So, and there's lots of things that you can do not to use alone. We suggest partnering up with somebody, you know, that also uses drugs, and so you use and they stay sober, and then they use and you're coming down from whatever you used. So you take turns, okay? Or you find a designated driver that will stay sober during that period. Or you use an app. So we have apps out there now that provincial government sponsors, like Lifeguard. And you can have that on your phone. You just call up the app, you put in that you're going to use, the app monitors that your phone is moving because you have it in your hand. If it stops moving for a period of time, they will call you and then call for medical assistance to come and help you. So I'm saying to our community in Port Alberni, so if you're a parent, if you're a spouse of somebody, or you love somebody that is using substance, the biggest message you need to tell them is don't use alone. If you happen to be a person that uses substances, don't use alone. Okay? And I hope if we get that message out to the community, we'll see a change in the numbers. And it doesn't mitigate the fact that we still have a horrible toxic drug supply. And that drug supply includes, like, there is no such thing as pure heroin anymore. Most of it is 99% fentanyl. It's made in somebody's garage here in British Columbia. And the other drugs that are horrible that are playing a part in this is meth and crack. And if I had to rate them, I would say meth is the worst, crack is next, and then we get into the opiates.
Okay.
Okay? And we'll just talk about meth for a minute, because what meth does is it changes the dopamine levels in your brain. Most of us run at a dopamine level of, let's say, I'll throw a number out, of 50. You know, it's kind of that.
But dopamine is a good thing, isn't it?
Dopamine is a good thing. And so, like, if you have a beautiful hamburger on your table here and you're looking at it, your saliva glands will start to salivate. It's because your brain is going, that looks good, and it releases dopamine in your brain because that's the feel good.
Unless you're vegetarian.
Unless you're vegetarian, in which case the salad does the same thing for you, right?
The lettuce on the burger.
Yeah, but here's the difference. So regular dopamine, when we're given something that we look like we're gonna like, it raises the level in our brain, and we get that good feeling in our brain, and we like it. So we pick it up and we equate our feelings to that object as good. That's what dopamine does for us as human beings. However, if you take crack, it raises the dopamine level to 1200.
Like too much dopamine. I guess too much of anything is bad.
Well, and think about that for a minute. So if my regular level is 50, and now I take crack and it goes up to 1200, what do you think my chances are when I come down from it, of saying I'm not going to take that stuff anymore? No. Remember, it's a feel-good hormone in your brain. And this 1200 gave you the best feel-good that you have ever experienced in your life. Better than sex, better than rock and roll, better than anything you've ever eaten.
There was a show about that on Netflix, and the lady said it's like chasing God.
Yeah.
It's like you're just there.
Yeah.
And then you're not.
Yeah.
But you can get there again.
So remember we talked about, is it a choice? It's a choice the first time, that after you get to the 1200 level the first time out with crack, you're going back for more.
Oh, so you get hooked easily then.
Yeah. And crack and meth is the other one. It also raises dopamine levels, but both of them are so addictive and they're so destructive physically to our bodies.
Okay, now I want to go to the part where what can we do? We who are not drug addicts, we do not have that problem. What can we do to help those who have that problem? Well, first of all, like reduce the stigma.
Reduce the stigma. I always say kindness. Frankly, let's face it. Like the human experience we have in 2022, we got so much stuff going on in the world. But the bottom line is, if we could just be kind to each other, maybe we would navigate through all of these things, and things would become a little bit better. So all I'm asking for is that people don't see these people as not being human, because they are human. They're somebody's son, daughter, brother, sister. These are real human beings, and when you actually sit down and talk to them, you'll find that they still have aspirations, they still have dreams, they're still hurt when somebody says to them, you're a rotten human being and get off my front doorstep. I don't want to see you here again. And they experience it through our medical system. You go to the medical system and you can hear somebody's voice in the background. Oh yeah, that's a drug addict. Drug addict. And it's said with that disdain and dirt. So we have to stop that. We have to advocate that people are human beings. We need to be kind. And then through that kindness, we reduce the stigma. And then hopefully we can start to orient people to actual help. Might not be today. Like I have people in my own family, they're not ready yet. But I'm working on them. Every day is a new chance. And that's what harm reduction is about. Harm reduction is all about keeping people alive until they make the choice to start the healing journey.
Alive long enough to
start that healing journey. So once they're dead, there's no chance at all. So I want to keep them alive until they can make the choice to start the healing journey. That's what harm.
And we just don't know how long.
Some people.
As long as they're alive, there's hope.
You said it right. I couldn't have said it better myself, Don. As long as they're alive, there's still hope. And frankly, what I've seen is over a period of time, people finally come to terms with the fact that, their health is being affected. It's destroyed their lives, and they do or will make a choice to start the healing journey. And there's lots of examples. I could point you to people that have made that step and now they're sober, right? Mm-hmm. So there's substances in the world, like it's no different. There's addictions on everything. There's addictions to alcohol. There's addictions to tobacco. People are addicted to gambling. And we have this level of substances over here, and we've decided to criminalize some level of these substances. Why we did that is a whole nother program. However, I will say, I don't see those substances inherently bad. If they were pure and they were prescribed by the medical system, they could do a lot of benefit in our world. But because we've decided to criminalize them, when we stuck it into the black market will throw anything into it. Like if you get fentanyl today, or what you think is heroin, it's going to have maybe cornstarch in it, sugar, baking soda. Could have benzoids in it. It probably will have benzoids in it, and a whole pile of other chemicals they throw on just to give it a little extra punch. All of that, when you stick it into your body, is toxic. Kills people.
Well, I definitely learned a lot. Thank you for coming on the show, Ron. We are out of time, but maybe we'll do a part 2 of this one of these days.
Thanks, Don.
So we're out of time. This has been a very interesting and engaging discussion, and we shall follow up some more in the future. Again, thank you, Mr. Ron Merk from the Port Alberni Community Action Team, and all the other people who are involved in helping with this issue in our community. And thank you, Carol Ann, for being here. I know you're very busy nowadays. But that's a wrap for today, and we'll see you next time on The Wave. Breaking news. Business owners who use video ads have shown growth of more than 50% over their competition. A well-produced video ad is just the thing that your business needs to take it to the next level. At Rainbow Wave Productions, we have the right tools and resources to create, execute, and deliver the video ad that's right for your business. Click the link below to book a free consultation today.